What's up, everyone? Coach Lucas here. Today I happen to be at Coach Leo's strength facility, so I'm excited to share with you today some fun stuff that we're going to talk about. Really, Leo, I was thinking we could talk about a couple things. Number one, winning attitude, a winning mindset. Perhaps we can talk about some of the things that you learned over at Mecca, and then just obviously from your experience, like what it takes to have a winner's attitude, standards, those types of things, right? And then if we want, we could talk about perhaps where MSM is going and what's next on the table for us as an organization. So,
okay.
So I know we talked about Mecca. So, what did you learn from Mecca?
Mecca, for those of you guys that don't know, it's Michigan elite conditioning for athletes, and a buddy of mine, Dave Lawrence, he runs that gym. And they now have 4 facilities, and they're about to open another one. They're moving their first one to Florida. That's really cool. And then they have another 2 opening in the Detroit area. And Detroit is not the easiest place to start a strength facility. So what Dave did was he had about 3 to 4 trainers on, and he blew his first gym up. They're running about 300 to 500 one-on-one sessions a week, which is insane. Like, that's a ton. I run personally 40 to 50 sessions a week just myself, so you can imagine how crazy that place is when it's running. And when you have that many sessions going on and to still produce results at the rate that they're producing, there's clearly a lot of operations in place. There's a lot of systems they use, and everything is around quality and integrity. So everything they do, every checklist they have, at the bottom of every single checklist, it asks, was this done with integrity? So if it's a trainer looking at the checklist, they'll look at it and say, okay, you know what, I can do that a little bit better. Because they're challenging themselves inside to say, is this my best self? Did I do my best work here? And that in turn makes them usually recheck their own work, which I really like. That's really cool. So their standard of quality is incredibly high and all throughout their entire facility. I mean, from looking at the facility, just looking around at it, it's beautiful. They have the top of the line equipment everywhere, to their trainers, the staff, the vibe, the culture that they have there. Everybody there is there to work really, really hard.
How many people were there when you went?
Just in the seminar, there was 30 of us. Okay.
And this was at like their home headquarters?
Yeah. This was at the Royal Oak location, which is a beautiful, beautiful facility.
And how many locations do they have?
They have 4 open right now, and all of them are incredibly busy. And you look at their wall, and it's lined with jerseys. And it's all athletes that they train. And most of those jerseys are professional athletes. And they have a slogan there that I love, and it's 3 years of results in 3 months. And they deliver on that. And to me, that's incredible. So that means what most people get accomplished in 3 years of training, they're getting done in 3 months of training.
I feel like that just highlights the difference between, for me, I've been fortunate enough to learn from you, like, what actually high training looks like, right? Like the all of the knowledge and the experience that goes into programming and training the right way and everything that goes into producing results. And that alone is so different and so far exceeds what a lot of people or players or general people experience with their personal trainers if they don't have that knowledge and that expertise and that type of programming. I'm just I continue to be so surprised on how big the difference is between those types of trainers at that level that are producing pros and trainers in everyday life, which is like 80%, 90% of trainers out there.
Well, to give you an example, when I first got my very first certification, I went to a school called NPTI, National Personal Trainers Institute, and it was a great school. It was 6 months, and most people, the sad part is in the training world, there's no governing body, right? So you can literally go get what's called an ACE, and I'm not talking bad about any certification, but I could study that book in a weekend, and I could be a certified trainer at the end of the weekend. Is that coach going to be the same as someone that's been in the field for 10 plus years, went around the world, learning from the best coaches in the world, not just the professors at the universities, because they're not training Olympic athletes. The people training Olympic athletes, which in my opinion is the highest level, they're out in their country, whatever country they're at, and they've been using methods that aren't even backed up yet by what the professors are still researching. So you have to have both. You have to have your professors that are validating the work of your in-field people.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
these in-field people are the ones I want to learn from.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time to wait for the validation of this professor. This professor could be 2 to 3 Olympic cycles behind the actual in-field, what they're doing.
And when you're talking about professors, you're talking about general universities or even high-level universities.
Especially high-level universities.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're probably the ones doing the most actual research because they're funded better. So, my mentor, Charles Poliquin, talked about eccentric training, like overloading the eccentric, which, if you guys don't know, it's when the muscle lengthens. So if we're talking about a bicep curl, it's when I'm lowering the dumbbell down and lengthening the tissue. Eccentrics are an amazing form of training, especially when you emphasize them. Charles, my mentor, was talking about that in the late 70s. They didn't validate that until 2008. Late 70s. They validated it in 2008. So if I would have just waited for the research to come out, I would have been
and
30
learn through
years.
University.
I would have been 30 years behind on that specific topic.
Got it.
So that's why you have this huge gap.
Right.
You have a person that can take a weekend certification, and now they're a certified trainer. They're charging $100, $150, and I train athletes now.
Right.
And that was me when I first started. So
Right.
when I got out of MPTI, now that was a better school too, 6 months, not the 3-day weekend thing, and I took the certification. I went 6 months. I had to prove myself. They gave me clients there. I was one of 3 students that was given clients there, and I re-signed my first one. I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. So when I got out of that school, and this is NSCA, National Strength Conditioning Association, that's what they taught us. Great book, great organization for training. They now do NASM, which is worse, which is National Academy of Sports Medicine. Still an okay certification, but if you're training high-level athletes, you need more than that. So I have the NSCA. I passed the test. I get out of school, and I'm like, I know everything. Like, I'm going to train really, really well. I'm going to produce some crazy athletes. And then it was like 1 month into me training, and I started at Lifetime Fitness, and I was like, I know nothing. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about actually training an athlete. And thank God I didn't.
Like, you know the muscles, you know the anatomy,
Yeah.
you know how things move and work mechanically.
Sure.
But actually progressing someone and programming and frequency and volume and all that type of thing.
More than anything, how to really fine-tune. And seeing the little things from one person to the next.
Cool.
There's a lot of broad things that we see when you have a specific sport. So, for instance, in soccer world, we see a lot of ankle mobility issues. That's common. We see a lot of hip tightness. That's common. But there's still going to be some little intricacies from one athlete to the next, just by how they developed, how they learned how to run, how
Yep.
they learned how to open up their hips, change directions, plant, right?
Yep.
So those are the things you have to not only have an eye for.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'll tell you, it wasn't learned from certification. That's from 10 years of me watching athletes go through movements and wondering why aren't they moving the way that I want them to move.
Right.
And then figuring out, how do I get them to move the way that I want them to move? What is their little thing? What is their deal? And that's where a coach, I think, becomes a great coach. Even if you don't know all the cool things you were talking about, this like master periodization, which is long-term planning, and knowing eccentrics and isometrics and all that. If you could just coach somebody into really beautiful movements the way they should be, with great range of motion and balancing out someone's body, you're already ahead of the game. You're
Right.
already better than all those people you're talking about in the low half of that gap.
Right.
And then you really want to maximize that to the next level, then you have to learn all those things. But first things first, you got to be able to coach somebody into an easy movement like a split squat.
Sure.
Hamstring curl, does it actually go all the way, and why doesn't it? If
Right.
their quad is tight, it's going to be pretty hard to fire your hamstring.
Sure.
So all those little things you have to know, but you have to keep continuously learning. I don't stop just because now I have a ton of athletes I train and I've done a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, I produce some pros. What does that mean? Does that
Yeah.
mean I don't have room to grow?
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing that I would challenge the athlete with the mindset stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I want them to have a great mindset. They have to keep working on that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be a great coach. I have to keep working on that.
Right.
And to your point earlier, the athletes that come in that already have the winning attitude are the ones that perform the best in the gym. 100%.
So what key characteristics do those athletes have that perhaps the other ones don't, that you have to nurture and coach through? What are the winners built from? Like, what characteristics describe the winners?
The winners love the challenge. They accept the challenge and they want to overproduce for the challenge that I present. Where the other ones look at the challenge as something that they can't do, as something that's their body or their mind can't overcome. And that's a hard thing to flip that switch. That's more where MSM comes in to help them learn how to flip that switch of looking things through the right lens, right? So if you have the right lens, you look at everything as an opportunity, not as something that's going to hurt you or make you worse or that's going to challenge you and make you uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to be very uncomfortable training because I'm going to work on things that you're very weak at,
right,
that you haven't done. And you've been playing soccer and you're probably pretty high level.
Right.
So you're probably really good at that and used to being good at something.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes a different type of challenge when you get inside of the gym.
Mm-hmm.
They have to take that as the same thing as when they're on the soccer field.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a master of this. Like, I'm really good, and everything I'm doing is to progress myself, to make myself better.
Yeah.
And I look at this through a positive lens as opposed to a more cynical approach of, oh man, I got to do my workout today. Oh, we got to do squats today.
Yeah.
No, my best athletes are looking forward to that. They're like, I'm going to crush my numbers today. We're going to do good. And then they get upset when we're not hitting their numbers.
Right.
They get really tied into that.
Right.
Because they know that the better they do on that end, the more they're going to produce on the field.
So how do you maintain that type of culture? Like, I've seen from my experience as a player, growing up and even coaching, like certain clubs that were really had a winning type of culture, and then other clubs, a lot of clubs that had things like politics and favoritism and kind of like a toxic culture.
Mm-hmm.
What do you incorporate into your gym, and also what did you notice from companies like Mecca, organizations like Mecca, that have helped maintain a high standard and that type of winning attitude, that winning culture?
So, for one thing, you have to have your core values aligned. And if someone's coming in for the wrong reasons, you have to know when to let that person go. And maybe it's not time now, but maybe it will be in 3 months, maybe it will be in 6 months. Because if they're in a really negative place and they don't look at this as a positive experience, they're going to create more of a toxic environment that I just can't allow in my gym.
Got it.
And if someone's going to be very pessimistic about the training, if the parents are making them do it,
right,
and they don't want it at all,
right,
they're not going to work out in my gym either.
Right.
But more than anything, it starts from the top down. So whoever is the biggest leader in that club, organization, gym, they have to be everything that you want to see from your clients.
Right.
Because you can't fake that.
Right.
You have to be passionate. You have to be a growth mindset. You have to be a positive person. You have to embrace challenge. And if you do that and you're passionate about that, that comes through. Your athletes are going to feel that exact same way.
Well said.
So that's basically, I haven't
there's no cheating it.
No.
There's no shortcuts.
No.
It starts from the top, and it starts from good leadership from the top,
Yeah.
and it trickles down, and it's about maintaining values, intrinsic, internal values, and all of that stuff gets shown explicitly and through modeling and through just sheer activity day in and day out of seeing what people are doing and how they're doing it, how they're conducting themselves, their attention to detail, all those types of things.
Yeah, and that goes to, you better hire the right people because they're going to be an extension of who you are. So if you have people that don't match your core values and who you are and your core values of your company, then you're going to have a more negative experience in the gym, in whatever club you're at, in whatever organization you're a part of.
Yeah, and that not only does that affect the team, but it affects the clients, it affects the players, it affects the parents, it affects the families.
Yeah, that's good.
And it seeps further underneath the surface than you can possibly imagine. At least that's how I perceive it. So I agree with you. I think that unit, that core unit internally, that team is so key. It's so critical.
Absolutely, and that goes to who you're surrounding yourself with as well. I've cut the toxic people out of my life, and it's not the easiest thing to do, I promise you that.
Yep.
But the return on that investment, it gives me chills to think about that, because my life is so much more positive, not letting negative people take my energy, take from my values, and pull me down.
How do you recognize, identify, and how do you cut out that toxicity?
Well, for me, at the end of the day, I have to be real with myself. And I look at people as leaners or lifter-uppers. Are you leaning on me, or are you lifting me up in my life? And I do the same thing for myself with people. Am I leaning on them, or am I lifting them up in life? I read that in a book a while ago, and that really stuck with me. Even in my own family, I don't want to lean on my wife just because I'm very busy at work. I need to be somebody that lifts her up, and in return, she'll want to lift me up back. And that's how we support each other.
That's huge.
So I think the same thing with friends and even business partners and whatnot. they have to be somebody that lifts you up. If they're leaning on you constantly, they're taking from you. They're taking from your energy, and you're letting them.
Yes.
You're enabling that. So you're literally telling them that that's okay to treat you that way.
That's beautiful.
So you have to change that. Otherwise, you have to get that person out of your life.
Well said.
It's just the way it is.
Let's transition a little bit and talk about where MSM is going, because I know there's some new topics that have come to mind that both of us are very excited about. What's your take on where we're going, and can we talk about that?
Well, where we're currently at is a good place to start, and we have a great foundation to help people. But to take people to the next level, to get to the highest level, to the most optimum form of training, we have to be more in person with people, and that's really the direction that we're starting to go into with MSM. We've seen great results from our camps, and that's only from being with kids for a week, right?
4 days.
Oh, sorry. 4 days.
Yeah.
We're usually out there for a week. But yeah, we're only with the kids for 4 days, and they all fall in love with what we do.
Right.
And especially when we're in person, they get to feel the passion. They
Right.
get to feel that vibe that you're talking about, that culture.
Right.
They want to be a part of that.
Right.
I mean, now we have kids from all over the country coming to visit just because they want to come get in the gym for a few days.
I mean, just in the last week, Spain, kids come from Spain, North Carolina, Arizona.
Yep. And we got more coming.
And we have more coming.
2 or 3 weeks from now. So it's exciting. So that told us there's something there.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to have some way to have athletes be able to come for a longer stay. So the end game is to be able to provide a residency of some sort. But in the beginning, it's pulling locally to get more into our MSM program as a whole.
Yeah.
Because we need the mental side and we need the physical side.
Right.
Because what I talked about. How do I get those kids that I turned away back? How do I get them to flip that switch? I don't have those tools. But partnering, and now that we're both a piece of it, now we have the physical and the mental part. Now the mental part is going to feed the physical, because the ones that don't have the right attitude, you have the tools to give them that.
100%.
And once they have that, they're going to excel on the physical. They'll fit within our culture without a problem. It'll be like an easy transition for them. And to have a facility and still be doing everything at an optimal level, to be able to get coaches in and get them right off the bat to know everything that I know, I've never provided that to coaches before. I teach a lot of coaches, but that's just coaches hiring me to get some information from me, or they want advice on something for their own athlete.
Sure.
Now it's going to be developing a SOP for certifying our own coaches. So we're going to have MSM branded coaches, which they're going to be game changers, because they're going to go the mental side.
Highest level mental side,
Yeah.
highest level mental programming, highest level physical programming combined.
It's a game over.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited for the results we're going to produce more than anything.
Well, we're producing crazy results, but we've always been siloed. You've been
Right.
over here in the gym, I've been over here online doing the mental stuff. You help sometimes with the online strength stuff, come to the camps, obviously, but if we can have both of those things, hammering hard in person, in a gym, I'm so excited to see what that does.
Yeah, the crazy part is we both produce really high-level results. And combining the two, I'm really curious to see what we're going to produce with that.
Well, what I'm excited about is we have such a high reach. There's going to be a lot of people watching this video alone, but we barely even spoke about this, and we already have a lot of kids coming this summer.
Yeah.
So next summer, I'm excited to blow the roof off this place.
I'm more want to make sure we have enough coaches to handle because I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we've never pushed the button on sending people here. It's just been people reaching out wanting to come out.
Yeah.
So if we push the button and we even do a little bit of marketing, the community is going to respond, which is beautiful, and they're going to get better results because of it, which is fantastic.
Cool.
So yeah, it's exciting. The future is super exciting for me. I'm excited to get coaches because that's going to give us bigger reach. We're going to have way more. You multiply me by 5 to 10, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And the vibe that people are going to feel when they walk in that gym and see 5 to 10 trainers training all their athletes at a really high level, and everybody having fun because they have the right attitude, it's indescribable. You want to be a part of it. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. We'll have a general population in there too, but our primary focus is going to be athletes.
Excellent. Very good. What else is top of mind?
Top of mind, I don't have a lot because that's something we've been working on for a little while. So for me, it's developing the right systems to get the trainers taught as fast as I can and get them to very, very high levels in a short amount of time.
Cool.
So I'm excited about that.
So if folks want to come out and see you in person, what's the best way to do that? How do they? When's the best time to do that? What do you think? Should they start planning for next summer now?
Yeah, and start trying to schedule it now. And you can also get a hold of Jennifer Ankowski. She can loop you guys through me so we can work on scheduling through that. But yeah, next summer is going to be an incredibly busy summer. So if it's something you guys are interested in, I would start planning that now, because we are probably going to hit max capacity next summer with the amount of coaches we'll have on staff. So first come, first serve. Whoever is going to reach out and we can get them scheduled, that's great. We would like to have them for as long as possible. I know that's really hard for people to hear, but the right thing to do if your child is already skilled at their sport is let us help them on the other end that they need time with.
Yes.
And they need a good 2-3 months with that. Now, would you come out with for a week and still get a lot of good results? Absolutely. And we'll still spark that interest, because if you train in the gym, you're going to fall in love with what we do.
Yes.
Because of the way that we do it.
Yes.
So even having them come out for a week would be great, but I hope that people are getting in their heads that your kid needs more than 1 week of training.
Yeah.
Like, you need 3 months.
Yeah. It's hard to
Super.
To consider that. As a family, when you got summer, so many activities, it's like, but for players that want to play at a high level, like this, it's necessary to invest the time.
If you live locally, there should be no excuse. I'm not kidding. I can't believe we don't have more in already, just from what we're producing. If you're local to the Chicago area, I don't care if it's a 45-minute or an hour drive. I drove an hour and a half every day to see a specific coach I wanted to see for a while, because that's how high a value that it had to me. It should be the same to you guys. If your player was to get injured, they'd be out 3 to 6 months, and that's no problem. And then you take them away from all their sports. But we're talking about a non-injury and still take them away, but to produce better results.
Yeah.
And that's something that parents are going to have to start accepting.
Cool. One last topic that I want to talk to you about, which I know we've talked about like briefly together, but perhaps we can bring it up now, is like charity. And one of the things, because of the direction that we're going, like one of the things that's really interesting to me is opening up a 501c3 and having some sort of entity where we can not only produce great results profitably, but also have an avenue where we can give back to help families with mental health, to help players with mental health or physical health. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have anything as far as vision that goes along with that?
Yeah, so my mentor taught me you have to give back. And that's something that takes to heart. So the future, if we're able to do what we plan on doing, there's a lot of more philanthropy type of work out there.
Yeah.
And I think that will be more gratifying to us than any of the other work that we're doing.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of kids out there that need help that just don't have the resources to be able to work with us yet.
Yeah.
And we're not at a place yet where we can help a lot of them.
Yeah.
So as we grow and as our community grows, and you guys are all a part of that too, the more you help us with that, we are absolutely looking to help more impoverished areas, and anything we can do for charity work to give back, we're absolutely going to take a look at that. If you guys have suggestions for us or ways to help us facilitate that better, by all means let us know, because that is definitely a part of our plans.
Cool. All right, well, I think that's pretty good for today. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's. Leave in the comments if you have any questions or thoughts. Leo, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
See you guys.